to my center of gravity. And then it passed my center of gravity. I have no idea where my center of gravity is intellectually, but under these circumstances, my higher self and my lower self apparently were all there presenting this condition and with me observing it. And so when it passed my center of gravity, I said to myself, oh, it's going to take my bike too. And as soon as it got to the center of gravity of me and the bike, there was a brilliant flash. And the next thing I knew, I was lying on the ground. The smell of gasoline was extremely strong, and the motor was running wide open, and I was lying there. The bike was laying on my leg, and the gasoline was seeping out of the tank onto me. And I was like in my body, but I had no power to move it or to do anything with it. And I looked over at the people that I was with, and they were just standing there staring, and I thought, what in the world? What's wrong with them? Why don't they come and help? And I tried to yell, but nothing would happen. Then after what seemed like forever, they finally came over, and they turned the engine off, and they lifted me up, and then I finally felt like I was in my body, but I couldn't. My legs were all jelly-like and everything. They put me over and sat me on a rock and held me upright, and they were just staring at me, and I said, wow, what the heck? Did I hit a tree or something? What happened? And they said, you're not going to believe what happened.
What
happened? And I went, what? And they said, okay, here's what happened from our perspective. We were completely shocked to see you drive off the cliff, for one thing. But then in midair, two brilliant flashes happened, one where you were and one where you ended up. And they happened at exactly the same time.
Whoa.
And you disappeared from there and appeared there.
So you never went down?
I never went down anywhere. I just went over.
So you were teleported?
I was teleported.
Oh my God.
From that spot, like bang.
Someone's watching over you, for sure.
That's not the only experience I've had like that. It's like, if you're on a spiritual trip, the main goal that is an every moment-to-moment goal is to not be mentally on some trip where, you know, you're either opposing it or you just learn how to quiet down. And you find yourself in a situation where you have no particular role to play. You don't even feel like you're there. But it's going on. And you appear, at least, to be the center of it.
It's almost like a near-death experience where you actually, your consciousness kind of leaves the body, but you're watching your body at the same time, and you know what's going on at the same time.
Right.
It's really bizarre.
It's very, very strange.
Yeah.
And you know everything. It's like there's no question about what's happening. You know. So
like when it flashed, you didn't even realize, like, or remember where you were in between the two flashes. You were there, you're watching this part of you, and then you were there on the ground.
Yeah.
Boom, instantaneously.
Yeah. There was no traveling time.
Yeah.
It was like instant.
I wonder who or what actually caused it, if it was your higher self and your consciousness, or if it was your guides helping, or a higher beings, like extraterrestrials, had anything to do with all that.
They could have. A friend of mine did mention that it was unusual for there to have been a van parked there. So that might have been just some reason to have made me want to change my mind. And to make that change, I would have to get on my motorcycle and drive off the cliff. So that I'm sure no one was excited about it. What kind of
lesson do you think you've learned from that? Is it just opening your heart and acceptance?
The power that we have, that as we pursue a spiritual life, you come to a point where you realize you're not going to be giving people that don't know who you are a rundown on stuff that happens like this, because they not only don't get it, they think you're deliberately pulling their chain, or they will be in the amount of fear that they are able to conjure is the amount that they need to deal with at any given moment. Just like any of us, we do have that constant accumulation of fear items that we're in process with dealing with. And they can at any time escalate into out of your control to the point where suddenly an event is taking place and you're just there and you're not going to be controlling the event. It is happening to you.
It's just happening. You let it go with the flow kind of thing. That's what I'm learning, is to let go of my will, let God's will flow through me, and things seem to go better when that happens.
Oh, absolutely. You know? That is the message that I think we're getting is, you know,
let go.
Well, first of all, look at all the changes that have occurred in consciousness with everyone. It's only a very microscopic number of people at this juncture in the human race on this planet who are able to understand anything about it. And so, and those people are the ones who have dedicated their lives to service to God, is all I can think of. You know,
service to God and others. Definitely been, well, we've been deliberately stupefied or dumbed down, they say, for the last 2,000 years or more. And to be kept basically in spiritual slavery for those Illuminati families who've been ruling the world. But that's all changing now because we're getting into the ascension mode, which is cycles, which is what the Mayan calendar is all about. And we're not only increasing our DNA strands from 2 to 12, and we're becoming fully conscious, which means instead of using only 10% of our brains, we're going to end up using 100% of our brains, and in connection with our hearts. Our hearts are opening, so we're ruling from our hearts, from love, which is the key to everything. Love is the key.
Here's another thing. In 1967, I dropped out, and
from your engineering job?
From the laboratory, and from being an engineer in society. I just had to stop because I realized I needed to be on my spiritual trip. But at that time,
is that when you woke up kind of like to more of what I would call mystical things or metaphysical?
Well, I was kind of forced to realize that I wasn't in control in the fashion that I thought. However, that I did recognize that there's a place that Martin Luther King talked about, a final step in service to God that everyone must take before they are able to understand the other side of themselves. So I recall taking that step where it was like I thought I was going to die, and but I continued going, and I didn't die. So it was kind of like everything changed after that. I felt different. I felt when I looked in the mirror, I looked different. Something had changed. I couldn't pinpoint it, but I felt different. And from that time on, my experiences have increased where I've become more and more aware of the need to not think so much of yourself, but to think of what you are experiencing and what your contribution should be.
Yeah, it's like instead of being self, like one, separateness, we're now becoming in tune as a mass consciousness, like a cell, and each of us are a cell in the body of Gaia and the universe. And becoming one, and we're being connected with each other energetically, and becoming, they said that the new Earth, the fifth dimension of Earth, which is occurring soon, will become like the brain of a being. When Gaia ascends, will be like her brain. Each being that ascends up with her into the fifth dimension is like a cell in her brain, and we become unified not only with each other,
well, we're
but
very
with her.
much that way now. Without realizing it.
Without realizing it, but we're not awake, is what it is.
That's right.
The alarm clock's going off. We got to wake up.
Quit
putting
that is the thing.
Button.
It's like watching our participation in time, for example. Nothing is the same. Time has like
coming to an end, actually, because we're in linear time, and time is ending, and it'll be a whole new ball game where we live by events and not not in a linear time. But we've got to wrap it up for today. I hope you enjoyed Earl's sharing his stories of his experiences. And we will talk about these things more in the future with the extraterrestrials and UFOs and experiences that we've all share. We have had spiritual experiences or near-death experiences or things with our consciousness changing. So for today, this is Reverend Grace Provost, known as Galactic Grace. And I hope you enjoy this. Aloha.
Aloha.